Hi, Taurus Sun and Rising. Welcome to your September 2021 Astro Update. It's Raina here. September is always a month that is harmonious for Taurians in the sense that the sun sign that dominates the month is Virgo. And Virgo is a fellow earth sign. So it forms a trine, which is the easiest aspect for manifestation. In your case, because Virgo is the fellow earth sign that's ahead of you, it's going to reside in the fifth house. And that means that you can enjoy this time. This is a time of pleasure. That's what the fifth house represents. So pleasure comes in many different forms, but some of the possibilities are parties, concerts, sporting events, and that can include competitions. If you are athletic, Taurus, there are artistic endeavors. I mean, this is the house of creativity, so anything in that area, whether you are creating art or whether you are appreciating art, can also be in play. This is the area of love. So falling in love, maybe reinstating love in your life. And by love, we can talk about new love coming in, but also your attitude towards love in general. And if there's somebody from your past, whether that flame still burns brightly, that can also be the case. And so this is just an area that it gives you because, the fifth house is also the house of children. So if this is who you work with, if you are like an early childhood teacher or like a kindergarten teacher, if you are someone who works, like at a daycare assistant or having your own children, this is the house of I was going to say creating children, but I mean, obviously, becoming pregnant, getting somebody else pregnant, and it can even be your inner child coming out to play. And this is really important because the fifth house is also the business that you own, and that is a form of creativity. But in general, a lot of the elements of this house are carefree because they're talking about leisure time and the activities that happen when we are not working. And then the sixth house, which for you is in the sign of Libra, is going to indicate more of that serious kind of attitude and behavior. So it's nice to get that fun stuff, if you want to call it, out of the way, and then so you can do what you have to do with work matters. Taurus is a sign that is capable of working hard and playing hard, for sure. So I think that you totally know how to do this. As the month begins, Mars is still in Virgo and therefore in that fifth house. And to me, I see it as grabbing the gusto. As a matter of fact, as I record this, let me see. I don't know. I don't have the ephemeris in front of me. I'll see if I can bring it up because I have Taurus rising, and I'm thinking perhaps that as I record this, that Virgo is already in that house. It's very likely that that's the case. And maybe it's because it's the end of summer where I am, but I feel like, oh gosh, I have to do this, I have to do that. I want to enjoy these things, feeling like it's time sensitive. And, you know, in my case, it might be going to the beach because the beach is close on Labor Day, and that's September, you know, first week in September. And you know, I live in the Midwest where we have distinctive seasons. If you live in California, if you live somewhere else, you may not have or like Florida, it's always beach time for you, or most of the time. But there are other things that you may feel a sense of urgency about when it comes to wanting to enjoy. And maybe you are off for a certain period of time and then you're going to go, you know, back to the office or starting a new job or going back to college. Who knows? It's so weird how all these different schools and stuff like that are starting at different times. It's so bizarre. But in any case, this is just how it is. And yes, it is like this every year to one extent or the other, where, you know, people are going from vacation time to the new school year or the new, you know, if they've taken off a couple weeks in August for vacation, and then they're going back into their job, and it's after Labor Day, and so they're kind of putting the summer behind them. You know, that might happen to some degree, but this year in particular, you know, Mars is not always right there. This year it just happens to be. It is going to be close to the sun fairly, but sometimes it's not in the same sign. It doesn't have to be. But this year it is. So that Mars gives that sense of urgency. And also can just, you know, nudge you along. On the 6th, we have a new moon in this house, and this is at 14 degrees of Virgo. And so you might have new developments that relate to creative projects or love in your life. Perhaps you have a new attitude towards love. Perhaps somebody new that you're talking to. And this can be starting a new business, which until the 7th of September is free and clear. And I would say even after that is going to be fine. Even when Mercury is in its shadow, it doesn't mean that you can't do it. It's just that it's the least amount of resistance until the 7th. On the 10th, Venus goes into Scorpio, into that third house, which is associated with Gemini. You know, this is a house of the mind, and that can include any form of communication, but also teaching and learning. There might be some kind of financial gain that comes from writing or from teaching. Social media can be connected to the third house, so that as well. Love, you know, Venus can be love, doesn't have to be just money. So, love from online connections, if you are putting yourself out there. And again, even like with social media, but for some reason, I don't know why I said almost like talking about an ex lover coming back into your life. This has nothing to do specifically with the transits. It's just something that came into my mind as I was saying it. I suppose you could make that assumption in some cases, because we are having a Mercury retrograde at the end of the month, and even though it's not, well, it is in the house of work, but I was talking about specifically an ex love relationship. And anytime there's a Mercury retrograde, you might hear from somebody from your past, regardless of where it's transiting in your chart. But anyway, back to Venus into Scorpio. This is also the house of siblings, and there might be very harmonious situations occurring with your siblings. Perhaps you had a little kerfluffle. Kerfluffle. Should I say, how do I pronounce kerfluffle? But anyway, on the 14th, Mars goes into Libra, so Mars goes into the 6th. When Mars goes into your 6th house, one of the things that it can relate to is health, because the 6th house is health. And, Mars can be fever, so it can be something in terms of how it's affecting you physically. But in terms of you taking charge, Mars is about a person who might be starting some kind of an exercise program to improve your health. And Mars is very physical, but I think that Taurus is a sign. I could be wrong about this, but I don't know if Taurus people really like to feel the burn. I think Taurus, because you're ruled by Venus, that you really like things that are very, I don't want to just say easy, but that maybe lower impact, perhaps. Just because you have that sense of like you're not impatient. So if you're trying to, let's say you're trying to lose weight or you're trying to tone your body, you're the type of person who might be capable of allowing it to take longer than it might if you were like really just pumping iron and doing something very vigorous. You might be willing to do something that takes longer but is kinder and gentler on your body. And so even though this is Mars and I associate it with kind of that very aggressive action, and maybe it is something like yoga or rebounding on a mini trampoline type of thing. I don't know how that will play out for some of you. The other thing is that this can be a show of aggression in the workplace. So there might be some conflict. Typically, I would say that you are the one doing it since this is your Mars there, but you may be feeling that heat, so to speak, from someone else who is being competitive with you. It could be you competitive with others. Perhaps you want a certain position and you're not the only one who's up for consideration. Now, whatever is going on, it can cause conflict. So whether you're bringing on yourself because you're getting a little bit too aggressive, or if it's because the environment is just being stoked in that way because the management want people to be hustling and they're creating this sort of dog-eat-dog environment. Now that you know this ahead of time, I'm thinking a lot of you have the opportunity to make it happen in a more harmonious way where you're not trying to step over anyone to get what you want. And really, that is the old paradigm, competitive types of situations of thinking that there's only so much to go around. And so if you're the kind of Taurus person that can transcend that and look for or to operate under the belief that if something is meant for you, it's going to be there. that you just have to show up and do a great job and let the universe take care of the rest. And if it's something that you do not end up getting, then you can feel that you still showed up and you still tried, but you didn't sell your soul in order to get there. You didn't try to do anything underhanded or just downright aggressive. I think about that movie, was it called The Black Swan with Natalie Portman, and how they would sabotage the fellow ballerina. And these are the kinds of tactics that maybe it's not that dramatic, but something that is sabotaging a fellow coworker. I think of the Five of Swords, empty victory, gaining the world but losing one's soul. I don't think that's very good, so no bueno. So yeah, and on the 20th, we have full moon at 28 degrees of Pisces. This is coming from your 11th house. This could be, I'm beginning to see more and more. They're talking about the 11th house, house of gains. So I like that because that could have a monetary effect. I think this is the official harvest moon in September. So be sure to put on that Neil Young song, because if I'm not mistaken, he put that out in around 95 or so. I don't know. But I remember hearing it in a cafe, and I didn't know. I mean, I should have recognized it was Neil Young's voice. I might have recognized it, and I was shocked to know it was a contemporary song, although 1995, that's a long time ago. But to me, it doesn't seem that long ago. But it was, after his initial heyday. So it's just like one of my favorite songs now, because I just love the vibe of it. So I do believe this is the harvest moon, and it's in that 11th house of hopes and wishes and gains, friendships, groups. There might be something going on with your social network. This is a late degree of Pisces, so maybe there is some kind of closure, ending. It might be as simple as you're going to move, and so you're saying goodbye to everybody. But Taurus people are changing. You have Uranus in your sign, and so you might be changing very rapidly, and all of a sudden you don't want to hang with those people anymore. But this could bring the harvest from your career, which is the 10th house, into that house of gains. So there could be money connected to it. On the 22nd, the sun goes into Libra. And then you feel, I was going to say it's like a switch flipping, where you feel like you're becoming very practical. You already are, because this is an earth house and you are very similar to that, but even more interested in your routines and establishing things and cleaning up your schedule, making your health better. So it's a good time for most of the month for health improvements. On the 27th, I always wonder, is it the 27th or the 29th? I guess it's the 27th. Mercury goes retrograde at 25 degrees of Libra in that 6th house. So if you're looking for a job, and, make sure that you have, like whether or not you can call back, because if, God forbid, but someone may misplace your application or your resume. So if you are in between jobs and you do suspect that you're going to be interviewing at that time, make sure you ask ahead of time if you can check back to see what the status is a couple of days later. Some places they might look at it as being too pushy, so you want to make sure what the culture is, the corporate culture. And you might be even thinking the type of service that you offer to others, rethinking that with Mercury in the 6th house. Also, going over, even if you start a diet, it can actually be good because you may tweak it. And Mercury retrograde can allow for more flexibility when you have experimented with something to then go and change it. And it's always good to question or to think about what it is that you're doing and if you still have that desire, rather than living life on automatic and just doing what you've always done. There's that saying, if you always do what you've always done, you'll always get what you've always gotten. So keep that in mind. Okay, that's what I have for you, Taurus. I hope that you enjoyed this. If you would like a personal reading, the link is below. Take care. Bye.